Welcome to Factual America, where we expose the truths behind the headlines the mainstream media won't touch. Today, we're breaking down one of the most contentious issues in global politics. Why does real peace in the Middle East always seem just out of reach? You'll hear plenty of talk about diplomacy, ancient hatred, and two-state solutions. But tonight, we're going beneath the surface to reveal the real reason they don't want peace in this region. Stick with us, because what you learn in the next few minutes could change the way you view the whole conflict and the people benefiting from its endless continuation. Let's start with the basics. Whenever violence erupts in the Middle East, politicians and talking heads start blaming centuries of hatred or religious conflicts. But is that really it? Not exactly. Yes, history and religion play roles, but those are only the surface explanations, recycled to distract you from digging deeper. The truth is, peace in the Middle East isn't just elusive. For some, it's downright undesirable. Why? Because instability in the region benefits very powerful interests. Let's be straight. The Middle East is a cash cow for global arms manufacturers. Countries raking in the biggest dollars from military exports are often the loudest voices calling for peace, while quietly profiting from the chaos. The US, Russia, China, and several European nations sell billions in weapons to the region every year. If the guns stopped firing, those profits would plummet. Think about it. Would peace conferences be funded if there weren't fortunes to be made from, say, F-35s, tanks, and precision drones? Unlikely. You've probably heard about the absurd amounts of money flowing between Washington, D.C., defense contractors, and foreign governments. In 1 year alone, the U.S. signed more than $100 billion worth of arms deals with Middle Eastern countries. That's not isolated. It's a decades-long pattern. And every time a proposed ceasefire begins to look real, watch for headlines quietly announcing new weapons shipments to ensure stability or safeguard allies. The war machine is always in motion, but it's not just about direct profits. Ongoing conflict gives superpowers leverage. Want to influence oil prices? Need a reason to keep troops near strategic shipping lanes? Keeping the region unstable justifies endless engagement under the guise of anti-terrorism or humanitarian aid. The reality is, endless conflict means endless opportunity, politically and economically. It's a running open wound that's far too convenient for those at the top. Now let's address oil, the real economic core of most conflict in this region. Middle East nations control a staggering percentage of the world's proven oil reserves, over 50%. Throughout modern history, control over that oil has meant control over global energy markets. Anytime a leader emerges promising to nationalize resources or break away from the global oil cartel, you've seen what happens. Sudden regime change, spontaneous uprisings, or conveniently timed bouts of civil war. Here's a twist the mainstream will never talk about. Instability lets both regional dictators and outside powers blame each other for failures at home. When you see a leader point fingers at foreign interference and foreign leaders decry regional extremism, remember, both are buying time and control over their own populations. Meanwhile, average people are caught in the crossfire, their struggles used as excuses for ever more draconian crackdowns and surveillance. Now, what about the role of Israel, America's closest ally in the region? Israel is often blamed for blocking peace, sometimes fairly, sometimes as a scapegoat. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Continuous, low-level conflict benefits hardliners on both sides. Israeli security hawks and Hamas or Hezbollah radicals all raise more funds and gain stronger political alliances in times of crisis. During calmer periods, the leaders pushing for compromise are shouted down. There's less profit, less media attention, and less foreign aid when tensions relax. Tragically, moderates suffer while radicals cash in. Foreign aid, another twisted angle. Billions in aid are promised to help rebuild, but a shocking amount is swallowed by corrupt bureaucrats, warlords, and mercenaries. Building projects stall, hospitals and schools remain half-finished, while luxury hotels and arms depots spring up overnight. For too many, instability isn't a crisis. It's a business model. Let's introduce another layer most people forget. The media. Would news networks get record ratings covering peaceful states electing officials and building infrastructure? No way. If it bleeds, it leads. And nowhere is that truer than in the Middle East. Conflicts, strikes, and terror attacks feed the 24-hour news cycle. Networks thrive on fear because fear glues eyeballs to screens, and that means massive ad revenue. When's the last time you saw a lead story about peaceful cooperation? Exactly. You might think world governments would get tired of footing the bill for continuous war. Think again. For many politicians, an unstable Middle East is a get-out-of-jail-free card. Whenever a domestic scandal erupts, just pivot to the Middle East crisis. Watch approval ratings rise and uncomfortable questions disappear. The foreign threat myth is a reliable distraction, and it keeps voters from scrutinizing what's really going on back home. Here's a chilling thought. Sometimes so-called peace efforts are designed to fail. Why else would peace talks drag on for decades without progress? The same insiders, diplomats, and negotiators keep their well-paid jobs only as long as real peace never arrives. Every historic summit is another photo op, another media storm, another round of expensive dinners, while frontline communities wait and suffer. And let's not forget global elites pushing ideological projects. Open borders, massive refugee flows, and cultural engineering campaigns, often justified by Middle Eastern instability, eventually reshape the West itself. Powerful NGOs and international bodies use endless war as an excuse to fundraise, amass influence, and push controversial agendas the average citizen never voted for. Another twist. Local elites in the Middle East often stoke nationalism or sectarian rivalries as a survival strategy. A cynical but effective formula: keep people angry at the other so they won't question where the oil money goes, why the schools don't work, or why so many live in poverty amid immense natural wealth. That outrage stoked by media keeps the population divided and the powerful powerful. The education system is another front. In places where real peace could bloom, school curriculums are rigged to perpetuate narratives of hatred, vengeance, or victimhood. What hope is there for reconciliation when children are taught suspicion, anger, or martyrdom from their earliest years? Peace starts in the classroom, but peace in the classroom isn't profitable for those who thrive on endless division. Who else benefits? Watch global energy companies. Instability means uncertainty, which they turn into profit through speculation and price spikes. Every new round of rocket fire sends oil prices soaring, while small countries and ordinary motorists take the hit. Manipulating supply fears equals big money. Religious leaders aren't exempt from this blame game. Extreme clerics, whether Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, too often build their empires on fear and apocalyptic warnings. When peace threatens to break out, donations plummet and attendance fades. Tensions mean influence and money. Perhaps the most sinister aspect: young men and women across the Middle East are kept in perpetual readiness for war. Conscription, propaganda, and poverty create a never-ending supply of soldiers and martyrs. Peace would mean reintegrating millions and rethinking whole economies. The powerful have little incentive to allow that reckoning. Let's zoom out. Every time peace seems possible, a breakthrough is announced or a truce is signed, almost immediately, provocations surface: a sudden attack, a political assassination, an accidental airstrike. Who wins in these moments? Always watch for those whose clout and wallets depend on turmoil. Even the average citizens in the West have to pay a price. From taxpayer-funded military interventions to waves of refugees and higher gas prices, the cost of endless conflict is dumped on ordinary people, not on those who orchestrate chaos from well-guarded penthouses. Ask yourself this: why do peace movements, once strong in the West, so often fall apart or disappear? Because the money, influence, and power lined up against them are enormous, and most activists have no access to the media megaphones or billionaire donors that the pro-war lobbies do. Whenever a peace rally grows, watch for disinformation campaigns, sudden security threats, or leaders who mysteriously lose funding. History tells us a hard truth. Wherever conflict persists for decades, it's not by accident. Patterns of unsolvable violence are usually maintained by very solvable incentives. For money, power, and control, exposing those incentives is the first step toward real change. So where should we go from here? For real peace to have a chance, the incentives for endless war must be broken. That means transparency in arms deals, exposing corruption at every level, and finally admitting that powerful elites, on every side, profit from your suffering. It also means being willing to ask tough questions, resist simplistic narratives, and demand accountability. Whether from your own leaders, foreign governments, global corporations, or NGOs. In conclusion, the real reason they don't want peace in the Middle East isn't some ancient grudge. It's because too many powerful interests depend on perpetual chaos for their profit, control, and influence. Recognizing that truth is half the battle. The good news is, once you see the strings, you can start cutting them. Share your thoughts. Who do you think benefits most from never-ending conflict in the Middle East? Have you ever noticed new wars flaring up just as old ones were about to die down? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to tell us which hidden topics you want Factual America to investigate next. Subscribe, share this with friends hungry for the truth, and as always, stay informed, stay skeptical, and stay free.